Your figures that you list for the House Appropriations Subcommittee, you're showing for the year ending 24, which is really a year ago, you're showing 28.2 billion there.
That's right, and that's the net.
And we've gone up about 2 billion for the year that's ending. Well, actually,
An additional 2 trillion from 28.2 trillion to about 30.1 trillion is our projection.
okay. Is that kind of shocking? And what percent of that is borrowed every year? That's the thing that I like to look at.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hot News Today, the one place where we cut through the noise and break down what's really going on in Washington. And wow, the moment you just watched from Representative Glenn Grothman is exactly why congressional oversight still matters. I'm just going to say it. Grothman walked into that hearing ready for answers, and they weren't afraid to put the spotlight exactly where it needed to be, on our exploding federal debt and the people responsible for tracking it. While everyone else seems content letting numbers skyrocket into the stratosphere, Grothman is the one asking the simple, obvious, but uncomfortable question. Where is all this money going, and why aren't we stopping it? You don't see that level of honesty every day. Now, before we dive into the full reaction, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss when we break down moments exactly like this. Because trust me, today's video, you're going to want to talk about it. All right.
I thank the ranking member. Now you have 5 minutes to Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you for coming over here. A little bit concerned. What is the most recent number on the amount of federal debt we have?
Sorry. So it's 100. It's nearly 100% of GDP. Our projection is now from January, and so that was for 30 trillion at the end of this year. The reconciliation bill we project will add more to the debt, and we'll have an update on that for you in February.
Okay, you said in January it was what, 30?
It was in January, we projected at the end of this year, the debt held by the public would be just over $30 trillion.
What's this $37 trillion I hear about?
That's the gross debt. So that includes the intergovernmental debt, the securities attributed to the Social Security Trust Fund. It's another measure that.
Okay, but just so I'm comparing apples to apples here, your figures that you list for the House Appropriations Subcommittee, you're showing for the year ending 24, which is really a year ago, you're showing 28.2 billion there.
That's right, and that's the net.
And we've gone up about 2 billion for the year that's ending. Well, actually,
an additional 2 trillion from 28.2 trillion to about 30.1 trillion is our projection.
Okay, is that kind of shocking? And what percent of that is borrowed every year? That's the thing that I like to look at.
I know. So we track that, and we track the composition of the debt. The debt duration now is just under 7 years, roughly. The last time I discussed it with this CBO staff, so that it depends on exactly the composition, what rolls over, but that gives you an idea.
I'm under the impression about 26% of what we spend is borrowed. Is that accurate?
Well, the deficit is going to come in this year at about just under 6% of GDP. So that gives you a sense of just the
How much is being borrowed? I mean, right? We're taking a given amount of money, we're spending a given amount of money. Yeah. How much of that amount we're spent is not being made up by new, they call it revenue taxes?
So it's about $1.8 trillion.
Okay, and is that about 26% of the amount we're spending?
Let's see, so spending is 6.8 trillion, so that would be 1.8 divided by 6 18 divided by 68, that's 20. Yep, that's right. You've got the math about right. Yep.
26%. Kind of shocking. You watched us put together these appropriation bills. I was a little bit frustrated. How long have you been doing this? You feel you're kind of an expert?
I've been director since June of 2019, so a bit over 6 years.
Okay. Have you seen any programs end in that time? Just end programs?
I mean, there have been, that's instances we've been discussing.
Say in the last year, this was
Yeah, in the
supposed
last
to be.
year. It's the enhanced premium tax credits from the ACA are one that's ending, and our estimate is that
That's still to be determined, but
it's about $350 billion over 10 years is the cost of extending that. I'm sure there's others. Actually, I can mention one other, right? In the during the pandemic, it was the American Rescue Plan Act. No, I'm sorry. It was the bill before the American Rescue Plan Act it was in 2020. Boy, the pandemic years blend together. But in 2020, there was a continuous coverage provision that with respect to Medicaid, and that was ended after the pandemic ended. So there are examples, but I'm not disagreeing with your overall point that there's lots of things that are, start and then don't end.
you call it revenues and outlays. There are things like the low-income tax credit, which has been highly criticized. Does something like that show up here under revenues or outlays?
So the low-income tax credit, it would show up under revenues because it's a tax. It's
Right, it's kind of a misleading way of pretending
it's
that you're
spending done through the tax code.
right. I know new market tax credits is the same thing, right?
That's right. So there's a variety of tax expenditures. The Treasury puts out information on them. The Joint Committee on Taxation puts out their own list of all of those tax expenditures.
Okay,
The gentleman's time has expired.
I'm sorry, thank you.
We will now turn to our colleague Jimmy Panetta from California for 5 minutes.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Boyle, and of course, BWC.
Now that we've seen the whole hearing, let's talk about it. Because Glenn Grothman just delivered one of the most refreshingly direct interrogations I've seen in a long time. From the very start, Grothman hones in on what every American should be paying attention to. The federal debt quietly creeping past $30 trillion, or nearly $37 trillion if you count gross debt. And while others dance around definitions, Grothman refuses to let it slide. They push for clarity, they push for consistency, and they push for the truth. That's leadership. What I loved. Grothman wasn't asking trick questions. They weren't playing political games. They asked the exact questions any responsible taxpayer would ask. How much are we borrowing? Why does the number keep rising? How much of our spending is literally money we don't have? And why do government programs never seem to end? And the answers? Honestly, pretty shocking. We're borrowing 26% of every dollar we spend. That means for every $4 the government uses, $1 is pure debt. No business could run this way. No family could run this way. But our government? They act like it's fine. Grothman doesn't let them off the hook. When a witness tries to smooth it over with percentages of GDP, Grothman cuts right to the chase. Okay, but how much are we spending, and how much of it is borrowed? It's such a simple question. Yet it exposes just how normalized this level of reckless spending has become. Then there's my favorite moment. Grothman asks if any programs have ended in the last 6 years. And what happens? The witness struggles to even come up with one example. Because in Washington, programs don't end. They just grow, multiply, and get hidden under new names. Grothman's frustration is completely justified. They're sitting there saying what the rest of America is thinking. Why are we adding more and more programs when we can't even fund the ones we have? And when Grothman calls out tax credit schemes, which are really just spending disguised as revenue changes, that was a mic drop moment. They expose exactly how Washington hides the true cost of its policies behind accounting tricks. Those low-income tax credits and new market credits, yep, they don't show up under spending, even though they function just like any other cash outlay. It takes someone willing to push back against that bureaucratic fog to reveal what's actually happening. And that's what Glenn Grothman did. Whether you agree with Grothman on every issue or not, this hearing shows why their voice matters. They're talking about the unsustainable path we're on, and they're not sugarcoating it. They're not dodging it. They're confronting it head on. And honestly, we need more of that.